Hello everyone, this is Damon with PixNub. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the new Studio Turf template that I just released. Now for this template, the first thing you'll need to do is import your brush into Photoshop that came with the download. And that brush is going to allow you to paint grass over the feet so the feet embed right into the turf here. Now to do that, you'll need to open your brushes window. And then from the little right drop-down menu, select Import Brushes. And just find that brush file that came with the download and hit load. That's going to give you a brush here, and this brush was specifically designed for this template to paint grass blades that match the size and shape of the grass in this template. Also on the PixNub website, if you do a search for grass, I've actually got a set of 45 grass mask brushes that do the same thing, but there's different shapes and curvatures and angles to the grass to mimic different styles of grass and also artificial turf. So keep that in mind if you like this technique. There's a set of these grass brushes that can work with many different styles of grass. Now for this template, use the one that comes with the template because this has been sized and shaped specifically for this template. So the next thing you'll need to do is put the player in. So let's, I'm going to go to the image here and just Control C to copy that layer, or Command C on Mac. And then that's Control V Windows or Command V Mac to paste the image into the layer. Oh, I'll mention too that when you paste it, make sure that you have this player here, layer selected before you paste. That way the image will go above that layer. And that way it's inside of this layer group. Because what we're going to do for this grass is we're going to paint that into the group which contains the player. And that's going to create the grass effect, but it's going to do it non-destructively. Now if you painted it, in this case there's a mask that comes in with the image. If you painted that grass into this mask, it would have the same effect. However, it's destructive at that point. You can't undo it later because you've now combined the grass into the cutout mask, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is scale this. Now I'll show you a tip too. If you're planning to scale multiple times, it's best to convert your layer to a smart object. So for example, if I scale this way down and then I decide, and I'm really exaggerating this here, but if I decide later I need to scale it up again, watch what happens. The image becomes really blurry. And if we do that a couple of times, now we've really destructively scaled our image, and you can see just how blurry we've made that image. And the reason why is because when you scale in Photoshop, it applies that to the pixel, so you're downsizing the image and then re-upsizing. Now if you convert this to a smart object, then you can scale. I'm going to go way small here, but then if we scale that back up, you can see that the image remains nice and sharp because this smart object is preserving the original pixel data from the original image. So I hope that makes sense, but that's just a tip. If you don't know how large you're going to make your image, or if you plan to rescale later, it's always best to use a smart object there. So it's best to get this sized and placed before you paint the grass. Oh, before we do anything else too, let me choose a background. I forgot to do that. This template comes with several different background options. There's the different football options, both with and without the pylon. There's some multi-sport fields. Like for instance, you've got just 3 white lines here. You could use that with any sport. But in this case, I'm going to use the soccer background. Now, this comes with 3 different flag options, and also for the flag we can change the color. If we choose this red flag option, this has a layer you can show, and you can make the color of that flag be whatever you want. So you can match the team colors if you want. I actually think the red looks better myself. I'm not one that thinks colors and everything have to match. That's my personal taste though. You can also use this without the flag too. Oh, another tip, before we paint the grass here, I'm going to show you one more thing since I'm here, is you can use this flag individually so we got the layer here without the flag, but you could then add the flag. And the difference here is two things. One, you're not going to have the shadow this way. You can see the shadow from the flag here in these layers that was rendered with the 3D software. But if you use the flag by itself, I rendered this without the flag, so there's no flag shadow. So if you don't like that shadow, you can use these two combined. And also, if you uncheck the lock, you can then move this flag too if you want to reposition it. And then let's say, for instance, you want to put this flag in front of the person somewhere. You could move the flag above the person. Also too, and you can see the bottom there. See how the bottom of this flag here? It's been cut out in the shape of grass blades so that it will embed itself into the grass. I'm just going to go back to the original flag layer though, because I like it the way it is. All right, so next thing we'll do is paint the grass over the feet here. And this is really very simple. You just select this mask here. You go to your grass brush. Now, you can size the brush up or down as needed. However, the size matches this template pretty well, so you shouldn't have to size it. However, if you place them all the way in the back, you may size down a little bit, because the closer to the front here, the larger the grass blades are going to be. But overall, it's going to look pretty well matched up. Oh, so you're on a white mask here, so you need to make the brush black. So now I just really quickly just brush right over the feet here, and you see it's drawing grass blades. Let me undo this here and show you something else too. You see where the feet wasn't all the way cut out here? You got the gray backdrop underneath. Well, the cool thing about this technique is you don't have to have these feet perfectly cut out. You can just brush right over them, and then you're hiding those imperfections. And anywhere you mess up, you can just undo that. So what we actually have here, I'm going to Alt click, or on Mac that's Option click on this mask. And all we've done is painted transparency in this mask. So we're not actually placing grass in front of the feet. We're cutting the feet out and seeing the grass that's behind it. And even though this cutout, these blades are not going to match up perfectly with the grass blades on the template, but the shape is close enough that that's going to be unnoticeable. Let's hide this background here just so we can see what we're doing. Like I say, we're actually cutting the feet out. We're making those transparent. So it's kind of an optical illusion that the grass looks like it's in front of the feet when actually it's behind the feet, and the feet are what's being cut out. So I hope that makes sense. Now, the other thing I'll point out too is if you decide to move the image afterwards, also too, if you're going to move a layer, make sure you uncheck the auto select if you're going to select a layer to move, or else wherever you click it could reselect something else. But let's just move this cutout here. I'm going to select the cutout layer and then just move this. You can see now that we're losing where the grass was over the feet. And it's not gone. If we go into our layer, it's still there. Just the feet are no longer lined up to where we painted. So let's undo that. So what you need to do if you've painted the grass and then you want to move or scale the layer afterwards, select this group instead. And so then when you move, it's moving the mask layer at the same time it's moving the cutout. It's moving the whole group. That way the grass stays lined up to the feet. So the next thing is the shadows. Now, I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make with shadows is they try to make an outline of their image and make this really unnatural looking shadow that looks like an exact cutout copy of their image. And that's really not the way shadows work. So you see in this template, we've actually got two light sources hitting this from different angles. But you see how soft this shadow of the flag is? This is a very accurately rendered shadow based off of a very large softbox from the render. And that large light source really softens that shadow. In fact, you can't even see the shadow of the pole because the pole was so narrow compared to the width of the softbox, and the fact that there's two softboxes in this rendering that you're not even seeing the shadow of this pole other than maybe a little bit on the ground before it fades out. So just keep in mind when you are painting shadows that you're just kind of imagining how the light's going to hit your subject and how those shadows are going to soften and fade. And so to paint the shadows, I put in two layers here called shadows 1 and 2. These layers are identical, but I just put two layers in. That way you could paint in shadows separately in two locations and have those independent of each other. So you may or may not need to use both layers. I'm just going to start out with this first one. So you'll click on the mask. Let me disable this mask real quick and let me show you what we're actually doing. This is just a solid black fill set to multiply blend. Based on the opacity of that layer, we are creating this darkening effect on the background. It comes in by default at 40%, but with that mask enabled, it's not being applied anywhere in the image. So if we just highlight this mask and make sure we're using a white brush, and how you know what brush color to use is really simple. If you look at the mask and you see the mask is white, you know you need to paint black, because if you're painting white, you're not doing anything. So if you have a white mask, you paint black to provide the effect. And in this case, the mask is black, so we're going to paint white. So we're actually painting white to get a dark shadow. I know that's counterintuitive to some, but that's because this is the color from the color fill layer, and the mask is where it's being applied. So just grab a soft round brush, hardness all the way down at 0. Oops, didn't mean to click off here. And then size the brush up pretty large. I'm just going to do a really general painting kind of behind how I feel the light's probably falling in this image. And just something like that is really all you need to give that nice impression of a very soft shadow. You see how nice and quick that was? Maybe a little bit up here where the ball is. But then with the feet, I think doing these on a separate layer is a little bit easier. So again, you're using a soft brush here and you're in the mask, but size this one down because the amount of softness is going to be dependent upon, well, both the hardness of your brush, but also the radius of your brush. So the closer the shadows are to the feet, the less they're going to fade out. Then maybe widen the brush a little bit as we go back. And then we could increase the opacity of this a little bit under the feet. And then anywhere you want to paint that effect off, you could go in and change the color to black on your mask so you're painting off the effect. I don't know, it might not be perfect, but you get the idea. Once you do a few of these, you get pretty, oops. Yeah, another key or trick too is if you hit the X key on your keyboard, that'll swap your background and foreground swatches. So if I go back to painting white, I can paint this on Then maybe in the softer shadows up here. Actually, maybe go back to this layer. I don't know, it's hard for me to think and talk at the same time. But I don't know, something like that. And you get the idea. Just go and practice this until you get this technique as you like it. But overall, just a general shadow impression is what I'm trying to stress here. You don't have to try to make this look like a cutout outline of the person. Something like this is all you need, and it's very simple this way, and it's going to have a pretty natural looking effect. So that is pretty much it for this first tutorial. I do have a couple other tutorials I'm making here for this, so watch those too, and that's going to be more discussions of the layers. Oh, in particular too, this create white grass. I'll just show you this here. Now I'm going to go over this in the other tutorial because I don't want this tutorial to run on too long, but this is where you could come in and paint your own designs into the grass, your own custom white grass markings here. And in that tutorial, I'll show you how to match the perspective of this. So if you're wanting to put in jersey numbers or team names, you can do that in a very natural way to match the perspective of the template. And that's why I included, like for example, in this football field here, I included a design with the right side free. That way it gives you some blank canvas space to paint your own white lines in, as well as the soccer field too. That's got this whole empty side here. If you take the flag off, or you got this side here you can work with. So there's some empty canvas space to paint in your own designs there as well. Anyway, this video has probably ran on for too long, so I'm going to end this one, but watch the next couple of videos for this tutorial where I discuss some other things that will help you out. Thanks for watching.